Hi there, I'm Sassy Mint Grace, and today we're going to talk about fibromyalgia for freaks. I just finished doing my chair yoga exercises that I found on YouTube, and I was thinking while I was doing them how much of our problem in today's society, our physical problems, are due to us being alienated from our physical bodies. We have to sort of tune out, and we have so many things going on in our head, and sometimes you have to tune out of your physical body. And sometimes people get so out of touch with their physical body, they're really out of touch, and her body says, I need attention, and they don't give it attention. And finally the body screams really loud, I hurt. And then the body demands attention. And what I've learned is that if I can be connected to my body more in my breath and so on and so forth, the more connected I am in my body, the more often I sort of do a body scan to see if I am feeling all the parts of my body, and do breathing and think about circulation going all through my body and oxygen going to my muscles and everything. And it just, by the fact that I did at least some of the breathing for 25 minutes of that chair yoga video, I benefited from it. Just two things, just that the hello, thank you so much for the oxygen, because the oxygen goes to the brain and the brain goes, yes, now I know. We're going to talk about fibromyalgia for freaks. Well, I'm your freak. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia back in the 80s. And I had chronic pain for years before that, particularly in my feet and legs, and from my sort of like my collarbone right up to the top of my head. And it would all be so tense, and I would be, okay, here's my ears, I would be virtually wearing my shoulders for earrings. I was so tense, and I wouldn't know how tense I was until I started to relax, and the muscles would relax and go down, and as they're relaxing, it's Charlie horses of pain that are shooting all across the muscles in my back, because I've been holding myself tense for so long. That's not good for you to do that, you know. After a while, your body just stays pinched into that position until you can say, hey, over here, have some oxygen. Oh, let's move this muscle here. And that's what happens is people who are in pain all the time, they tend to breathe shallow in pain. And when you're breathing shallow, what happens is your musculature in your chest and your back for your breathing, those muscles atrophy because they're not being oxygenated, because they're not being used, right? And so then you tend to breathe shallow, and you don't deal with pain as well if you're breathing shallow as if you're breathing deeper. That's just my experience anyway. I find it helps to breathe deeper. But to tune into my body, to pay attention to what my hands, my wrists, and my ankles are doing, to do that for 25 minutes, it gets me out of my head and all, what's this one thinking? I wonder if that one thought that, and well, no, maybe we should do this, and I know what if they're thinking this? All of those voices in the committee in the head, right? And instead, I'm paying attention to my physical body and feeling, and I'm breathing, and I'm feeling, and I'm breathing, and it just feels so good to it feels like I'm plugging into where I belong. That's what it feels like to me, to as I do the breathing, for my relaxation to happen more and more. And because I am doing the better, deeper breathing, I don't get to the point where I'm wearing my shoulders for earrings, right? Because I'm so much more tuned into my body, I can feel the tension much earlier, and I can do something to breathe it out, because a lot of times it's just a matter of doing some deep breathing, stretching some muscles, and you feel better. I mean, I wasn't feeling well earlier, and I just said, oh, I feel so yucky. The first probably 10 minutes I was doing the yoga, I was yawning constantly, so I believe that in this place, yawning was getting oxygen to my brain. I do believe or to my body, because I was moving more and I had been sitting still. So I know that benefited me, right? I got more, my lungs expanded out further and pushed back in further because I was breathing deep over a number of times, right? So that's putting oxygen to all that musculature that helps for the deep breathing, the good breathing, plus those muscles, the diaphragm muscles. Those are like a pelvic girdle to hold in your internal organs. And the more they are, it's harder on you, the more fat that's on your gut, between your internal organs and the outside. not 100% sure why that is. It doesn't matter. We just know that it is. So if you can get some kind of a pelvic belt going on there for, you know, when you're peeing, make sure when you're peeing that you do your utmost to get rid of everything, even if it means like leaning over like this, because that'll press on your bladder and it'll give you more. Plus, doing the, you know, pushing out to do that and to really use that muscle inside that is pushing out when you pee, that, you know, makes that, squeezes the bladder, is basically, that's the muscle that, I don't know what it's called, but to be aware of that and to feel that and to be, you know, regularly be feeling that area, because you're breathing and you're feeling it and you're tensing and you're relaxing, you're tensing and relaxing. And that area needs to be comfortable too. And something that a lot of people don't know, this is a very poorly kept secret as far as I'm concerned. There only are those who won't believe at this point, is that women also get blue balls or lover's nuts, whatever it's called. And what happens as we age, the less action that area down there sees, the less oxygenated those walls are going to be, those tissues are going to be, right? So the more we can keep something moving around that area and feel sensitive in that area, the more we can do that, the more we're strengthening those muscles. And one of the best things you can possibly do for your all your muscles in your pelvic area and your abdomen and your whole body. It's your whole body. You're giving your whole body a break, and that is to have an orgasm. Orgasms are good. They're beneficial for health, and that's another well-kept secret. Just imagine the pharmaceutical companies wanting to charge us for getting off. Well, I guess there wouldn't be anything new, would it? When you think of how many people are abusing pharmaceutical products. Anyway, that's another whole story. You want to talk about pain reliever. I want to talk about pain. The only thing that I found for pain that helped me, and all of the prescriptions that doctors gave me, all they did was give me nasty side effects, and they didn't ameliorate my symptoms whatsoever. But there was one product I found that really served me well, and what it did is, number one, it relaxed me, and as I relaxed I was more comfortable, and it helped me to sleep. And sleep problem, part of fibromyalgia is waking up often in the middle of the night. Sometimes you wake up and you feel like you've been awake all night because you've been tossing and turning. And then you're more sore, because when you're in your REM stage of sleep, that's when your body's muscles are doing micro repairs. That's what it's called. Your body is self-healing, right? So when we're in REM, we're basically in the shop. Our body's in the shop, get for repairs. And if you keep being deprived of that REM sleep, it can drive you mad. And I'm not exaggerating. There's plenty of people that are proof of this. It's not good for you to not get enough sleep. It's sleep deprivation, we know now, is used as torture. That is one of the most, having bright lights on and making loud noises so people can't sleep for days at a time. Like, that's absurdly cruel. That you can't say somebody who's civilized would do something like that, would you? Really? Anyway, this medication, because it took the pain away, I was able to get up and move around, and I was able to accomplish my daily task, like washing dishes, making a meal, sweeping and scrubbing the floor, cleaning the bathroom, making my bed, tidying the living room, washing down the, cleaning up the kitchen, washing the fridge and stove, which is going to happen here right sudden, like in the kitchen. Those are things that I'm in so much pain. Normally, every step I take hurts me so much, and when I use this medication, it's as though somebody turned the gravity down. So I feel light-footed. I almost feel like I'm flying around. It feels like I'm flying because I'm in so much pain, moving all the time, and my body's all pressed down because I'm holding myself over in pain. And I don't realize how tense I am. After I take it, the longer I sit, the more I sit up straight. And feel good about sitting up straight, feeling like I'm comfortable sitting up straight. This is the way I'm supposed to sit. And that, knowing that whole area around my trunk, that I'm doing something. I also have Pilates for Dummies, and it's a DVD, and I'll put it on in the living room, and I'll just do it by listening to it in my bedroom. And it does something for the core area, right around your belly button and around. It does something in that area that also pulls everything up in your supports your internal organs from above and below, and that all in that pelvic girdle area. So it's also when I'm sitting up straight and I'm not in pain. See, when I'm in pain, I'm in all at an angle. Whatever part of me is hurting the most, I'm using on the other side trying to compensate. And for years and years, I had bad knees. The doctor put cortisone in it, and the cortisone deteriorated the cartilage, and every couple of years a piece of cartilage would come out and it would get jammed between the bones there, the bones that go up and down. And I couldn't straighten out my leg. I'd be in terrible pain for months at a time, waiting for them to perform what they called a scope, where they do day surgery and go in and take that piece of kneecap. Basically it was broken away cartilage from my kneecap. They'd have to take it out, and then I'd be laid up 6 weeks while it healed. And I had like 4 of those in both of my knees before they replaced my knees. So I've had pain in my knees for ages, and so when you're walking on your knees, you're compensating with your ankles, and you're holding yourself tense. And the more tense you get, the more tense you get. It's a funny thing about that. So just doing something like the chair yoga, sitting at my laptop, in front of my laptop. It can't get much simpler and brain dead. I haven't even brushed my teeth today. If you want glamour on camera, you're looking in the wrong window, because this is Sassy Mint, and I am what I am. That's all I can say. So it's going to be interesting as I learn how to look at the camera head on, like I'm looking into your eyes. And just when I think, I tend to look different directions when I think about different things. I guess there's a whole science to that too, if you knew it. Anyway, oh yeah, fibromyalgia. So, it really doesn't matter where the tension comes from. I suffered from extreme tension to the point where my body it was like somebody pressed my adrenal gland for the fight-flight, and all this adrenaline came out into my bloodstream, because what adrenaline does is it makes you get so much more breath out of much breathing. It gives you oxygen to your muscles. It makes you ready to fight or flight, and it makes you feel, that the flood of adrenaline in your blood. I think the primary emotion you're feeling is fear. So, okay, I'm feeling fear. Well, I can't imagine why I'm feeling fear. I'm living on, way under the poverty line. I have a really great brain, but I haven't been able to get the job that could get the best of my brain. I did for a short time a few years ago, but that was the only time. So I've come to believe that it's my calling on this planet to minister to people one-on-one, that I don't need to have a job to serve. I can serve people just by being present to them. That's another way of serving people, because I think that's what is something that people are hungering for. One of the many things people are hungering for, but I think one of them is something to believe in, or somebody that you believe is really genuine, is really sincere. Because I have no patience for bullshit at all, and I have no patience for hypocrites. And I know I'm a hypocrite. Everybody's a hypocrite over one thing or another. That's the nature of the beast. But I want to at least say what I'm thinking. I will not go along to get along. I will a little bit more than I used to at one time. I'll bite my tongue now, where years ago I didn't have sense, and I just thought, you people, you don't know what I've survived. Psh, don't waste my time here, you know, because I've been through some pretty hairy shit, man. I have slept with my back up against a signpost outside of the west side of Chicago when I was 16 years old. I have sold my blood and gone to the bar with the money I got for it, and left the bar with someone and stayed with them at where they were staying for a couple of days. It was living in a Salvation Army hostel, being with all these different street people, meeting all these personalities. There was one old woman who used to have a baggie of cigarette butts she'd carry around with her. She picked them up everywhere she went. And she was at the Sally Inn where I was staying, and she said that her son was a doctor. And I believe her. I believe her. And somebody was kind enough to pass me over a package of Marlboro cigarettes. And I took them and said thank you, but I smoked one and they made me green. And I passed them to her. Well, you'd have thought I gave her $100. She was so delighted, so tickled, she just couldn't believe it. And it just made my day, you know, to make this dear little old woman delight. And there was this other young woman that was there at the time. And I thought she was my age. And it turned out she was 14 years old. She'd had one child and 2 abortions already. And she'd been selling herself on the street since she was 12 years old, and was molested at home. And I thought, my God, that poor little girl, you know. She's here because she has to be. I'm only here because I want to be here. If I wanted to, I could get a job in any restaurant here if I wanted to. And thought that I was just visiting that side of town, right? Like, I'm just passing through here, folks. I got other places to go. Little did I know. Those things, to have survived those things and to be able to look back on them and see that if you'd have made another decision at another time, you know. One time I got a ride outside of Denver. I got picked up by this transport. And about an hour after he picked me up, the truck drivers that were back there said there was a flash, snowstorm, a blizzard. There was a blizzard blew up. It was in the 70s. The temperature was in the 70 degrees marks when I was there. And that quick, it was a blizzard. And I got picked up an hour before the blizzard. You know what I mean? Like, all the time, every time something that could have been so much worse. I had a guy pull a knife on me in a car and pull a knife to my throat. He wanted me to give him a head. And I said, don't think so. And he said, it's because I'm black. And I said, no, it's because I don't know you. And I was able to, I said, you know, to myself, there's only one thing I can do to survive, one or the other. I can go with this guy, or I can try to get out of this car. And he slowed down to go up an interstate ramp. And just that, as he slowed down to go off into that interstate ramp, I jumped out of the car and rolled on the side of the road and over the ditch. And the car that was behind him stopped and said, don't worry, I'm going to call the police. I'll be an ambulance. I'll be right back. And I was just laying there kind of stunned. And soon enough, an ambulance and this guy come back first, and then the ambulance came, and they took me to the hospital, and they did a rape kit on me, just in case. And they examined me all over, and they were fantastic. And they phoned my mother. It was the 11th of March, 1977 is when it was. They phoned my mother, the state troopers in Longview, Texas, and told her that her daughter had just been assaulted and had narrowly survived by jumping out of a moving vehicle and was now in the emergency room of their hospital, right? And the next thing my mother hears from me is a letter I send her saying that I'm going to join the carnival. I'm going to travel around with the carnival shows. And my mother was like, her hair was pure silver in her, late 30s at the latest, right? And I, Can't imagine why. You know, it never occurred to me that my mother wasn't sleeping very well at night. I was selling flowers on Yonge and Wellesley Street in Toronto. I was 3 blocks from where the shoe shine boy was murdered, up the street, and I was there down the street 3 blocks from there. And I went home with this guy who bought me flowers and invited me on a date, and I went on a date with him that night, and I went back to his place, and I mean, he could have slit my throat. He could have sent, you know, sold me into white slavery. You know what I mean? Like, God knows what would happen. My poor older brother was just worried sick when I left. He said, well, who is this guy? I don't know him, you know, and he talked to me about white slavery, and I'm like, no, that's not like that. And it wasn't. It was a whole different sickness. whole different deal. But nonetheless, you know, if I hadn't have met him and hadn't made the decisions I made during the time I was with him, I wouldn't be who I am today, because as a result of, you know, my decisions, I became a mother when I was planning on coming out as a lesbian. And so I chose to, as soon as I found out I was pregnant, with all of my choices of, I was a girl of the 70s, and I knew my choices were abortion, adoption, foster care. There were all kinds of, you know, there were different ways. And I had connection to Women's College Hospital, and undoubtedly I could have got access to any of those things, right? Like bing, bang, boom, like no big deal. But instead, I chose to go back with my husband, who was physically abusive from the day he moved in with me, right? That's when it began. And, but yet, you know, when I was pregnant for another man's child, he was there for me, you know. He rubbed my back through every pain. And when I had labor, he held my hand when I was bringing my daughter into the world. So, and he stayed with me, and he loved her like she was his own. He did. I don't know if he's still alive or not. I'm hoping so. I haven't been able to find him anyway. His name's Donald Edward Curry, and he would be, probably 70. Be 70 in May. Anyway, back to fibromyalgia. My experience when I learned that I had fibromyalgia I had been in 2 abusive marriages, one physically, one emotionally. I had the stuff that I had gone through. I've just, like, I've lived 1,000 lives. I have lived 1,000 lives. And some people, like, they look at me and look down their nose at me, and I just like, okay, well, I hope that someday you have the knowledge and joy in your heart and the belief that everything is happening and it's all perfect and I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, and everything I want and need comes to me freely and easily, and everything I need to know, that information comes to me when I'm ready to fold this information, you know. Kind of like folding the egg whites into, that's what I'm doing right now with Ken Carey's Third Millennium. It's being read on YouTube by I think a computer reader, and I'm listening to it. I'm playing Scrabble online against a computer, but I'm listening to this book being read, The Third Millennium, and it's the next step in my adventures to going home, because to me going home means to be back amalgamated within what I am, never apart from, but yet my separate self of, all at the same time. And if you can follow that, then you're probably going to be interested in some of the things I'm going to say. So that should be enough for this time. All I can add to that is keep coming back. It works if you keep an open mind. Okay, this is me, Sassy Mint, the wild one. Careful of that dismount.